store, man.
Nobody calls Han Solo a bitch.
Bring him on. I prefer a straight fight to all this sneaking around.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, come on, bro. It's the wars.
All right, for 3 weeks we've been talking about how we're going to get to this Disney Gallery stuff, but we keep putting it off. Well, that ends today. This is The Wars and More. I'm Joe, and of course with me is my good buddy Doug. Hey, Doug, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. We got to talk about this Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian stuff.
Sure. We have been promising for a while, right?
It's been on our list for weeks. I mean,
yeah,
we got to talk about it. I mean, it's good stuff.
It is good stuff. It's I don't know. I like hearing people who are just so knowledgeable about what they're doing and things of that nature, just discussing their thought processes and things like that. Anyway, this was, I forget the episode title. I think it was Practical, but they're basically talking a lot about the environment in Star Wars and, what they had to do to make it Star Wars. And I guess we'll start off here with the showrunner, Jon Favreau, just to get his thoughts on what they were doing with the environment for the Mandalorian.
We're referencing George's world. George created all this, right? If you're living in a Frank Lloyd Wright house, you can't just move the walls around. You could replace the pipes and the fixtures, but you want to keep it still being the essence of what was created by that visionary. And so part of what gives us freedom is that there is a certain amount of fun you're allowed to have on the margins of Star Wars, back to the holiday special and the Ewok TV shows. So there's always been room in Star Wars to mess around. And then there's the big movies. The big movies are the main attraction. But we're happy to pull it together and do the stuff that's fun, that still feels like it's part of it.
So I love what he says about the way he compares it to Frank Lloyd Wright house. I mean, it's you can change basically the mechanicals of it, but you have to keep the basic structure in place.
Yeah, it's gotta look a certain way.
Exactly. And
what I really like in there is something we've talked about a lot over and over and over again, is like there's room to play around. There's room to have fun.
Sure.
Star Wars is fun.
Yes.
It's supposed to be fun.
Yep.
I mean, it's serious situations for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's got to be fun at the same time. I mean, George has said it time and time again. He made Star Wars for kids.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
but I mean, okay. So I don't know, just you talking about having fun in Star Wars and we're talking about the Mandalorian here. The one scene that popped out to me is when he's with, and I forget the other bounty hunter's name, the younger guy.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have Beskar armor. Nope. It's like, see,
yes.
You laughed.
Yes. And you know what? That was in all honesty, that was a serious scene.
Right.
We laughed because we're on the outside.
Exactly.
But in that moment, neither one of those guys are laughing. I mean, well, the Mandalorian's laughing.
Right.
But
a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be whimsical slapsticky.
Right.
That's not what I mean when I say Star Wars is meant to be fun. I mean, I'm talking, no time to discuss this with the committee.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, but the punchline of that is, I am not a committee.
And it was great.
Yes. So I love that Jon Favreau has a complete understanding of that he's working inside this environment. So the environment has to stay what it is.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to interject one more time.
Go ahead.
I've heard Jon Favreau talk about something a lot.
Uh-huh.
He's mentioned it a lot. And I almost wonder if maybe Jon Favreau's the person to get this onto Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Why is the holiday special not on Disney Plus? Like, look, I know it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't know.
But man,
this
needs to happen.
We have not seen all the fine print of that contract. When George sold, he might have been never, ever show this. You never know. Could be in there.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Right.
And we want to bury those.
Yes. So
yeah, I mean, maybe he said, look, the holiday special is off the table.
It's possible.
It's off the table. It's in the trash can. It's gone.
Right.
I hope not. I'd like to see it show up there. I mean, look, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
It is terrible. Yeah.
But I think it's still worth showing to people.
Oh yeah. Totally. And on a side note of your side note, July's almost over, so get your Christmas in July, Star Wars style in.
Really? But not only that, I mean, even what he's talked about, the Ewoks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like to see Ewoks show up there.
Again, not great, but
not as bad as the holiday special.
Right. But I have to say, even as a kid, I was a bit disappointed in watching that. So, okay. I mean, yeah, and we're talking about the live action Ewoks, not there was an Ewoks cartoon, right?
Right.
I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah.
Something. I
don't know. But yeah. There was something about it that was like, yeah, this is, I don't know, it's got some Star Wars stuff in there.
I have a reason for wanting Ewoks to show up. I've seen the holiday special. I've never seen Ewoks.
Okay.
So I put that disclaimer out there. I'll say, yeah, I don't know. Animated live action, I don't know. I've never seen it.
Right.
But I'd like to see it make an appearance so I can add that to my, my Star Wars viewing experience. Whether it's good or bad, I don't care. I want to see it all.
Okay. Well, bear in mind it's got what's his name? Wilford Brimley in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like him, a couple kids, and a bunch of Ewoks. Pretty sure. It's like so. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, sounds terrible.
Anyway, moving on here.
Yeah.
So again, this is just another clip that just kind of shows how much they get it and how much they're working towards realizing or staying authentic to what Star Wars has always been. And this is John Knoll talking about the environment they're working in.
The first Star Wars films have a low-tech kind of grit, the way the costumes are presented and a lot of the look of things. I think it was born out of necessity, probably on the first one, in the sense of like, well, let's repurpose this aircraft, this and that. And they crafted it in such a way that it just has an iconic look now. And so you cannot stray from that. You have to make sure that you're operating in that world. And you want to, because it looks amazing.
So
there's no doubt about that.
No doubt about that.
I mean, even by today's standard, I mean, you look at Star Wars and you compare it to what was being made at the time using the same sort of techniques.
Right.
And I say sort of because there were improvements on those techniques.
Absolutely.
but using the same sort of techniques. I mean, you're looking at flying saucers on a string, you know, and you can tell it's a flying saucer on a string.
Yes.
You know, but
And
you couldn't really tell it was an X-Wing on a stick.
right. The Star Wars, and a lot of that was, you know, okay, we can't make the ship move and get it to look right, so let's move the camera around the ship.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of that kind of thing. And for me, this is, you know, Star Wars is where you first, how do I put this? As a kid, a young kid, right? You have Han Solo talking about the Millennium Falcon, right? It's the fastest ship in, you know, whatever, you know, made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Wow, it's fast, right?
Less than.
But okay. but look at it. Look at the shape of it. It doesn't look fast. And as a kid, you don't grasp the whole concept of, you know, space is a vacuum, blah, blah, blah. But you're looking at an X-Wing going, now that ship looks fast. That looks like a fighter jet. Or, you know, I mean, it's... Anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's really probably a lot of the genius in the X-Wing
yeah,
and even the TIE Fighter. I mean, they look fast. So you get, in these sequences, you get an illusion of fast
sure.
just because of the way they look.
Yeah.
You know, the scenes are actually like, if you really, really pay attention, everything's really slow.
Right?
But the look of them makes you ignore the fact that everything's moving very slow and makes you feel like everything is, you know, a fast-paced, you know, battle.
Right.
Now, they did do other things that helped with that, like the trench run.
Yep.
You know, when the camera gets into the trench and, you know, you see that point of view look at it,
Oh, yeah.
you're like, oh, okay, this puts some speed perspective on this.
Absolutely. Part of what I was getting at with that is that the Millennium Falcon, right?
Yeah.
The fastest ship, doesn't look all sleek and aerodynamic, and because that's what you got before this, pretty much, right? All these ships are, you know, they look like an arrow, you know, something that's going to just glide through the air kind of thing. But, you know, George had this vision. He was realistic enough to, and he was being realistic enough about it. It's like, look, this is a ship. It's in outer space. It's in a vacuum. I don't have to tell you all that as a viewer.
Right.
You'll get it. But it makes everything look more real, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what's funny about the Millennium Falcon is it doesn't look fast. You know, when you're looking at it, you know, in the hangar.
Yeah.
Or on the side, or the top-down looks when it's flying through space, things like that. You don't feel like that's a fast ship. You're like, oh, come on, fastest ship in the galaxy?
Right.
But it does have this magical thing when it goes behind it. And you see that big blue bar.
Oh, yeah.
You know, now it looks like it can haul some ass.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like, okay, this is where it makes up for it. It's got it where it counts.
Absolutely. The other part of this clip was how he talked about using all of these, you know, what was it, repurposed aircraft parts and things like that, and you know, just making it work. I gotta, you know, we'll get into how that might play into things in a little bit, but you know, I guess just keep that, you know, footnoted there. Next one is, of course, whenever we're doing these, I always got to play Dave, right?
It's interesting listening to you talk and all you guys, and it's a thing that I always feel, and why I wanted to come to Lucasfilm in the first place, is that everybody loves Star Wars and everybody knows a lot about it and can read a lot about it, but there is an actual little history of Star Wars at the company because it's what built the company. It's the foundation of the company, and there's this knowledge, just like with Jedi in the story, that's passed on that people know. And when you get that firsthand knowledge of people that worked with the actual people, that we can go back and grab people and say, come on back we'd like you to build a Salacious Crumb again. You know, stuff as simple seeming as that, but the legacy of it and what it means to them to see the enthusiasm of people, like how hard it's hard to believe all these years later, there's such energy around new stories in this world that George created. But there's such a responsibility to always remember where it came from and yet to now push it forward in ways. And that's what makes Star Wars unique, because you can buy into it, the magic of it, the mythology that supports it. That history is so important to me, and I think it's important to Star Wars, which is, you know, and you guys being involved in this has made this, I think, more special and connected for it.
So, a history of people who have done it. That's, you know, I love that because what he was referencing there was for the Kowakian monkey lizard, they had like on a rotisserie there. And the other one
in the cage.
And the one in the cage. They actually brought the original guy who made Salacious Crumb for Return of the Jedi back to make those. So, and that's what Dave's talking about. And everybody that they talk to about, like, you know, can we get you to come back and work on this project? You know, you worked on whatever in the original trilogy or in the prequels, whatever. And everyone's always happy to do it because this is something that, like, everyone has put their all into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they, you know, I don't even know. Because I'm putting words into people's mouth, but I kind of understand what Dave's saying there. If you look at it from this perspective, working on Star Wars would have had to have been one of the hardest jobs you ever did, but one of the ones you most loved. Does that make sense? Because, like,
yeah, you
hear almost what starts off as like a horror story all the time. It was so hot in Tunisia. It was this. It was, you know, we were working so many hours, you know, going nuts that we were just kind of like, you know, goofing off at the shop in ILM, you know, and everyone's like, I would do it again in a heartbeat kind of thing. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I love that about this whole franchise because, you know, we've all had experiences like that where, something that was really tough to do at the time, but you always look back on it and go, man, I'd love to do that again. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, one thing I get in there too, and this may be kind of hard to follow because I'm going to use the word history many times.
Okay.
So it may be kind of hard to follow what I'm trying to say here, but it is very interesting and stuff to me that, you know, Dave talks about the history of Star Wars, right?
Yep.
Right. The history, the mythology, the legacy, well, George himself was a student of history, student of mythology.
Yes.
And history and mythology in the real world played a huge role in his influence for Star Wars.
Yep.
And to hear that there's kind of this full circle thing going on here where history itself was a influence for Star Wars then, but now the history and mythology and legacy of Star Wars itself is influencing Star Wars in the future.
Yeah.
It's astonishing how that worked out, you know, like
it created its own history.
Yes, it used history to create its own history that created this big. Yes.
No, it makes perfect sense to me.
It's a very wild thing.
And I cannot remember who it might have even been Walt Disney. I don't remember. Somebody, you know, says we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? We could not be where we are today without all those who came before us. It's so I in one way or another, you know, it's You know, I don't know. I like to think that I'm happy to think that there is Star Wars being made today so that people who worked on it in the past can come in and kind of pass on their knowledge to new people so that Star Wars can be made in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you know, I don't want to get too deep or anything, but, you know, that's kind of kind of a cool thing when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, if we go down this road, I mean, we could do a whole show about, you know, history and the events that influenced Star Wars, and even in, you know, stuff that happened in recent events that influence Star Wars now and what it's going to do in the future. That could be a whole show on its own.
Sure.
Dissecting all of the influences of Star Wars and what it meant then, what it means now, and what it's going to mean in the future. That may be something we may want to tackle someday.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's going to take a lot of research.
Yes, it would. We'd have to do our own homework.
Yeah. It'd be a lot of fun.
It would.
Maybe that's something we'll put on the docket for a future show. Like,
okay, I'm writing this down.
Dive into the history, huh?
I'm writing this down.
Hey, I'm all for it. Like, but I mean, we may be here for 3 hours. I mean,
yes,
because the influences and the history and current events and recent events that influenced George when he wrote Star Wars, there's a lot.
Yep.
There's a lot to unpack and all that. So, yeah, that'd be something for a future date.
Very cool. So, I guess if you haven't seen that episode, go check it out of Disney Gallery. Right. Was it?
Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian. There you go.
I mean, I'm sure people have all seen it by now. I mean, it's been out for a while, but if not,
yeah, check it out.
The whole series is worth checking out.
Like, give it another watch if you have seen it already, but kind of like, you know, when these guys are talking, sitting around that table talking about all this stuff and how it goes back into history, give that some thought and really kind of think about, you know, what they're really getting at. Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun to hear creators talk about. Like I love film commentaries.
Oh yeah,
things like that. I don't so much like the ones where they're talking over the film, even though we've done that.
Yeah.
I mean, our commentary is a little different. Ours is like our perspective.
Sure.
What we think, you know, speculation.
Yes.
We have no creative insight whatsoever on Star
Exactly.
Wars.
Exactly.
So we're talking about it like, you know, just two dudes who like Star Wars.
Yep.
So, but I like the ones the like round table discussions where they've got people and they're not even showing the film, right? They're just talking about it. All the bonus features that come on DVDs and Blu-rays and now digital content. But yeah, bonus features, that's my stuff right there. That's my jam.
For sure.
All right, so they got to talking in there about, you know, how Star Wars was created on a budget, right?
Yeah.
How there were certain restrictions that influenced how Star Wars turned out.
Yep.
So could we possibly be heading towards that again?
Well,
budget influencing how we're going to do things?
There is some speculation towards that. So I'm looking at this article from Making Star Wars. And he's apparently got a bunch of sources everywhere, right? Says overall
everybody's got sources.
Yeah.
Everybody but us.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, my Pinewood sources expect movies to be a lot cheaper moving forward after the global pandemic. In a very general conversation, a few of my sources essentially expect the next Star Wars films to be smaller in scale, more intimate blockbusters because of the economic downturns the world has suffered. That really isn't the worst news either when you consider how cheap A New Hope and even Batman from 1989 would cost compared to movies made in 2019. So, I could see, I know you have thoughts on this matter, but I could see Disney wanting to par down the costs a little bit. And let me just throw a couple figures out at you, because just wanted to look and see, what kind of numbers we're talking about. So you're talking the cost of making the movie. The Rise of Skywalker was about $275 million. Solo was about $275 million. Rogue One was about $200 million. So, overall, it's not bad returns. When you're talking upwards of $1 billion, but
for most of them,
right? Not all of them. We all know this, and we're not. I don't want to drudge all that up, but in the grand scheme of things, and I know this is almost unfathomable. I can't even talk. For people like us to figure numbers like this, but when you're talking almost $1 billion or $500 million, how big of a deal is it to save $100 million at the, from the beginning? But for them, in business, it is. It would be a big deal. So
right. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. I have thoughts on this, and I have thoughts on everything. So
sure.
You could say, "Hey, Joe, that car over there is red," and I'd be like, "Hey, I got some thoughts on that."
Yeah.
So, but given the timetable of the timetable we're looking at here,
yeah,
I don't think the pandemic itself is the influence here.
I agree.
Now, it doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt, right?
It doesn't hurt. It probably advanced that idea.
Yes.
Maybe it was a route they were looking at, and the pandemic sealed that, that
sure,
route.
Sure.
But this has been in, these films have been in, I shouldn't say pre-production, but let's say pre-production. They've been in the works for about a year now.
Yeah.
So they've had ideas for a while what direction they're going.
Yeah, for sure.
And, we talked, man, it was a while back, about how Hollywood was going to be reaching a breaking point with film cost. And I think we talked about this after Solo.
Yeah.
That Hollywood was going to reach a breaking point on this, where if you make $400 million or whatever, you're a bust.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about that.
So we talked about how films were going to have to head the direction of getting smaller, like budget wise.
Right.
Not everything needs to be this spectacular, special effects extravaganza. I'm looking at you, Avengers. It doesn't have to be wall-to-wall craziness, right?
Right.
And that stuff's expensive.
Yes, it is.
$275 million to make a movie. And like when you make a movie and you have to break $1 billion in order to be like, yes, we were successful, that's not a good state to be in.
Exactly.
And then we also talked about what else is hurting in this idea of this big special effects extravaganza. Story.
Right.
Story is hurting. I mean, it's okay because lack of story sells.
Right.
But I think we have started heading a direction where people are starting to have a thirst for more in-depth storytelling again.
Yes, I agree with that.
It got great for a while because we're in the time of comic book movies, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Comic books are not, literal, in a literary sense, deep stories. They're a visual storytelling, method.
Yeah.
So obviously big special effects, things like that, that's telling stories like a comic book.
Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We're heading back towards the novel storytelling idea, which is going to, we're going to put more on our actors.
Right.
On their shoulders. Performances.
Yeah.
It's heading back that way, and it's been heading back that way for a while. It's slow to get there, but people are calling for it.
Sure.
So this direction they're talking about, this could really, really work out in their favor.
I think it could in several ways. I think another angle to look at this is looking at the numbers that we were just looking at, $275 million for production costs. If you took $100 million away from that, it's not like you're going to be making the movie on a shoestring budget. You still got $175 million to make a movie. That's not really bad. But what it could force you to do is become innovative, right? This is some of the stuff that we were talking about before, especially with the John Knoll clip, talking about the aircraft parts that they repurposed into other things. Anakin's lightsaber was a camera flash, right? I mean,
right.
All of that kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that they need to try and, just be innovative about stuff. I don't know. And I have to say, The Mandalorian is a good example of innovation being put to work. They have the volume and they're actually planning out their scenes far more meticulously than they would if they were shooting in front of a green screen or even on location, because they have to be kind of in certain spots for their background to change in the right way for where they're going to be. Right. So,
right.
It's a lot of times, how do I put this? Well, a lot of times when your hands are tied in one way, you're forced to think far more creatively about how you're going to achieve something, in a different way. So I think you're right. Storytelling can be benefited from this big time. And, I don't think we're going to lose too much either, because I think there are technological advancements enough so that we're not quote unquote taken out of it because something wasn't up to today's standards in filmmaking. I think,
right.
I think we're in a good spot for this kind of thing. And, I think if, you get a lot of new faces coming into Star Wars, that can also be a good thing too, because you're not going to have the payroll, I mean,
right. So just for a little fun.
Yeah.
So Star Wars 1977. So what did you say? The Rise of Skywalker cost 275, 275 million.
Yes.
Okay. So Star Wars in 1977.
Yes.
$11 million.
Yes.
That's what that film cost.
Now, he got 10 and then went over budget and barely was able to get that extra $1 million to actually finish the movie.
So now that's 1977. So we got to adjust for inflation.
Sure.
So adjusted for inflation, that brings Star Wars to $45 million.
Wow.
That is still a far cry from 275 million.
Yes.
Okay. Now these are just the adjusted for inflation numbers. The Empire Strikes Back, $54 million.
Wow.
Return of the Jedi, $81 million.
Those are adjusted for inflation.
Those are adjusted for inflation.
My God.
So you're talking like you're $200 million over those.
Yeah, exactly. I'm almost, how do I put it?
and not only that, they're $200 million over that, but they're going out of their way to use practical effects.
Right. Yes. I mean, I don't know what to say about that, because I'm almost disappointed that these films cost that much money to make. You know, to think about what was done back then. My gosh, I don't know. I'm dumbfounded here.
Hey, if you could produce a film for $81 million and make $2 billion,
yeah, exactly.
Just saying. Special effects are great and all, you know.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, we got to get a little more realistic with this. I mean, theater costs are already ridiculous.
Yes.
So
I agree. I think, and okay, so the other thing that, you know, they're probably thinking of that we're not yet is they're unsure of how movie theaters are going to play into all this. You know, they could be looking at, you know, the next quote unquote Star Wars film. Is it even going to see a theater? It might stream to all of our television sets first. And if that's the case, they've got to get their production costs down. You know? I mean, they had no problem with the 100 or 150 million to spend on the 8 episodes of The Mandalorian, but yeah, and think about it like that. If you had that kind of production cost in a 2.5 hour movie, because we got what, 6-7 hours of The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
I think this is totally doable.
well, we knew that.
I mean,
we knew that.
Yeah, I think they are reevaluating here, and especially with The Mandalorian and how well it's been received. You know, I think they are looking at this going, okay, we can definitely cut these costs, and we can put out quality content, and just so long as they have the right storytellers in place, I think we're in for a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, with Star Wars, yeah, you want to move forward, and you look at The Mandalorian, they did that. They stayed simplistic, right?
Yeah.
In the spirit of Star Wars, they stayed with a simplistic approach, but they still used new technology, advanced filmmaking forward with the volume.
Yeah.
So you can still be innovative, still do all those things that make Star Wars Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
But still be simplistic and story focused. I mean, we got episodes where, heck, a lot of it is a guy around a fire talking about stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, food for thought, right?
Absolutely.
Have something to add to the conversation? Or you just want to let us know how we're doing? Email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best place to get in on the action. But if social media is a little more to your liking, @TheWarsandMore on Twitter is always a good place to interact with us. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/TheWarsandMore. And of course, your portal to this and everything else, The Wars and More, is thewarsandmore.com.
All right, so we were just talking about how the pandemic has affected, budget, restraints, things like that.
Right. Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, I absolutely believe it does have influence on the decision.
It might have fast-tracked things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It definitely is like, oh, you know that thing we were talking about? Yeah, we should do that
now. Yeah, exactly. We figure out how to do this now. Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that's come along with this. So remember how we were excited about Star Wars coming back in 2022?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, come on, man.
So Star Wars, everything's been pushed back a year. So
Wow.
the December 2022 release to kick off a new trilogy has been moved to December 2023.
Okay.
And then the following would be 2025 and 2027.
Interesting. So, all right. So, a movie that I was looking forward to going to see earlier this year was Wonder Woman 1984.
Yep.
And that's been pushed back till what, November or October now, something like that. And that type of pushback, the opening, I totally understand. Now, I also understand that you can't be like working on a film like you would normally be working on a film right now.
Right.
But
these decisions right here are definitely all about making production happen.
see, that's right. That's what I'm thinking. Is this convenient for them to push it back a year just to kind of get extra time as well? You know what I'm saying? Because they'd be in early pre-production if anything right now. You know, there's a lot of like talking about things and writing and things that could be done, you know, at home or virtually, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching what would have been the 2 years to go mark, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yes, they're not, you know, in December of this year, they're not ready to start shooting. That's just not a thing.
Right.
But I just think that they don't know how long this is going to go.
It's true.
None of us do.
Right. That's true.
Right.
Right.
We don't know if, you know, the next fall or whatever, we might see another uptick, right? Like,
sure.
We don't know. This is not a show about the pandemic.
No.
But it's definitely going to put a damper on production.
Yeah.
Right now is not even a good time to have meetings to be getting your ducks in a row.
Yeah,
I know you can do stuff over,
sure,
you know, apps and things like that, but you know, these meetings to get this stuff in a row, it's not going to be quick, right? It's not going to be easy, and trying to talk over each other on a Zoom call,
right? Yeah,
it doesn't go as well as in person. So there's just a lot of things that this is affecting.
Yeah, I understand all that. I just there's just a part of me that feels like, okay, we have an extra year now. It's the whole pushback a whole nother year thing that kind of gets to me a little bit. Like,
well, let's consider another thing.
Yeah.
Before you finish that means, so you look at movies that are being delayed right now. That means their entire production schedule is pushed back.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, Mulan, right? Mulan was slated to be released in March, right?
Okay.
Something like that originally.
Yeah.
And it was pushed back to August, and now it's been pushed back again with no date. They don't even know when they're going to put it out.
Oh. So
because so I think it's a matter of all of their productions being pushed back. So they don't want to step on their own toes.
Yeah, I was going to say Mulan is finished though. Yeah, it's done. They're just
that's
waiting
just one movie. I mean, how many is on the Disney docket though?
Sure.
I I mean, Avatar is another one that was slated to release, also been pushed back a year.
Which, okay, so if you're going to push back the Star Wars movies a year, it makes sense that the Avatar movies are getting pushed back because they were slated to be every other year, alternating between the Star Wars and Avatar movies, correct?
Correct.
So that makes sense. I guess it, it kind of makes sense that they would do this because it kind of gives them a little buffer time to see how things play out with everything going on around the world. And then, they've given themselves a hard target to shoot for just 1 year further back. And I guess that makes sense. There's part of me that just, I want to see Star Wars sooner. But it's a whole nother year, It's
we're full of those tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, I understand, they intentionally put out these production schedules. They wanted a blockbuster every year, which was Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars.
Absolutely.
So if they got to push back Avatar, that means Star Wars is going to get it too.
Right.
They just want to spread out those blockbusters, right?
Yep. I guess
don't want them stepping on each other.
Yeah, exactly. And in lieu of that, I guess there's a lot more careful planning going on than I was really giving credit for. But it's just I'm anxious to see what's next for Star Wars as far as the films go.
Oh, I'm with you.
The television productions seem to be, there have been some delays, but they're going to be kicking in here soon. So we'll see how all that goes and plays out together.
Well, let's take that into account too, right? I mean, the television stuff has been immensely successful.
Yes.
So there might have been hey, let's ride this out while it lasts as well.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We were talking earlier about business decisions being made and things. I can only imagine that they're looking far off in the future, trying to figure out how they can come through this whole thing and out the other side on top. So, I'm sure there's been a lot of thought put in scheduling, things like that.
And let's be honest. I mean, while we want Star Wars, and we want it now.
Yeah.
We want it to be successful.
Oh, for sure.
Because successful Star Wars means more Star Wars.
Absolutely.
So if this is what it takes to make sure that everything's going to be done right and successful, then I'm on board.
Yeah.
I can wait another year. I've had to wait a lot longer before.
Hey, you can't tell me about waiting.
So, I mean, we've been spoiled. We really have.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. There is that part of me that knows that too. So, yeah, I'm just, we are kind of at the cusp of something new and different for Star Wars, and I'm excited to see what that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what's got us all chomping at the bit, right? We, for the first time, I mean, let's be real, the first time, we have no idea.
Right.
where this could be headed.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's a pure mystery. I mean, aside from, people who are going to see Star Wars in 1977, they had no idea.
Well, that's exactly
but they
what
weren't
I was
fans
going to say. Yeah. Well, but so for the first time since then, you have the potential, not to put any pressure on them, right? But you have the potential to come up with something new, yet still in that same galaxy, like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and John Knoll were talking about, but a story that's completely new and different and can basically, quote unquote, take the world by storm again, right? Because it's not going to be a continuation of what was done in 77. It's going to be something brand new, all of its own. And, that's kind of what I'm excited for about it. I don't know that they're going to be able to match that or recreate it, or even if they're trying. But if that is what they're looking to do, here's where you do it. So if you take a little more time in order to do that, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. That's, that's exactly it. We're all excited for something new, and yeah, exactly. If it takes more time, then by all means, let's take more time.
All right.
Doesn't change the fact we want
it. Exactly. It's a whole nother year.
Yeah, and like I already said, we have truly been spoiled. We really have been. We've never had this much Star Wars content.
Right.
And I shouldn't say this much Star Wars content. We've never had this much Star Wars TV theatrical content.
Right.
Visual content.
It is it is kind of sometimes you got to step back and check yourself, right? Because there is so much for us to take in now that we have to be careful not to get to the way we, I'm speaking for my family, right? When a season of Stranger Things comes out, we binge that. We're done in 2 days. And then we have to wait another year and a half.
Yeah. Where's the next season? Damn it.
Exactly. Right. So I don't want to become like that with Star Wars. And I think it was smart of them to put out The Mandalorian on a weekly basis. I think it's a good strategy. We talked about that, letting it settle, the episode settle for a week before the next one comes out. But we, as consumers of this, have to be careful not to just consume.
Yep.
We need to let it set in, and we need to
not be the one who always looked away.
Yeah.
Never focused on where he was.
Right.
What he was doing.
Exactly. Yes.
Just to keep going with the quotes, right?
Yeah, I like it. Hey, it's a good thing.
Yeah. We do spend too much time looking for what's next.
That is for sure.
And not absorbing what we've got. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe we need to take time and digest everything we have.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, we are spoiled. We are blessed when it comes to Star Wars content. So, we can't lose sight of it. My desire to have new Star Wars sooner. Yes, it's strong, but I need to temper that with, I want it to be good. So take your time, make it good, and we'll be there.
Yep. All right. Speaking of good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of good, John Williams is definitely there.
Oh, absolutely.
This is quick. This is just a little thing from John Williams with he was chatting with the New Yorker.
Uh-huh.
And they were talking about the main theme. And I just thought this was funny with the way he said this. He says, that fanfare at the beginning, I think it's the last thing I wrote. He says, it's probably a little overwritten. I don't know.
I will
says,
say, go ahead.
The 30-second notes in the trombones are hard to get in that register of the trombone, and the high trumpet part.
Ah, yes. The high trumpet part. That's what caught my eye on this. I used to play in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. Yeah, he talks about Maurice Murphy, great trumpet player of the LSO. That first day of recording was actually his first day with the orchestra. And his first thing he played was that high C. And when he said high C, knowing what note that is, oh my. Yeah. In all my years of trying, of playing the trumpet, I could never reach a note like that. So, yeah, that's impressive. And 30-second notes on a trombone. I mean,
yes.
Oh,
well, having played trombone, I will say, damn.
Yeah. So,
you and I talked in preparation for all this.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, I told you, I was like, I wouldn't be like that upset if I had to play 30-second notes on a trumpet, right? With that little mouthpiece and
sure.
I could do that. Man, on a trombone? Really?
Yeah. It's this casual sounding conversation John Williams is having in this interview, and he's bringing these points to light, but what it does for me is it emphasizes just how good these musicians are. And
the LSO was
yeah, I know there's none better, but
yeah,
you think about Star Wars, right? For many of us it's like the best movies ever, right? John Williams, best composer ever. The music, the musicians performing it. It's,
And on day one, they all looked at that and said, "He wants us to do what?"
Right. Exactly. And the thing is, they all make it look easy because you have everybody who is the best at their craft working on this stuff. Mm-hmm. So. That's kind of my takeaway from that whole story, which, just something like that. You read something like that every now and then, just kind of puts a smile on your face, makes you think, yeah, these guys are good.
And that's something that's pretty wild in that too, is, you think of how big an orchestra is.
Yeah.
Right. How many people are involved in, bringing this music to life. And John Williams names one guy here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A single person.
Right.
Yeah, that speaks a lot about John Williams,
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
He wasn't just going into a room with a bunch of musicians like, let's get this done. No, he knew these people too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I'm going to miss him.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, they said John Williams and retiring, like done with Star Wars. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly. This is not a good thing.
But yeah, he did bring us, let's just say the best music to grace cinema.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that for sure.
All right. Last thing, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
So, Disney Plus. We all know the Star Wars fans out there who are like, "Oh God, they're going to do another Disney Plus series, right?" Like,
right.
This is all they say anymore. Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not one of those fans. Every time they say this, I'm like, yes,
Exactly. Yes.
Let's do another Disney Plus series.
Please more. Yeah.
So, rumor. Gotta emphasize rumor.
Yeah. Must be clear. Yeah.
Donald Glover returning as Lando Calrissian for a Disney Plus series.
Ooh. I like the sounds of this.
It does go further because there may not only be one Lando returning for a Disney Plus series.
Ooh.
Billy D. Williams may also be reprising his role.
Wow. Okay. Are we talking the same series?
No one knows. It's a rumor.
Ah, yes. Okay. So I like this. Yeah, because we can play with this. So,
but you know what? I do got to say, like, in the rumor mill lately,
yeah,
I love this one.
Oh yeah,
because all the other rumors, and sorry, I'm going to do it again, but all the other rumors have just been bullshit.
Yes,
but this one here, like, actually gives me hope.
Yeah, for real. I mean, this is the type of thing right here that it's really plausible, and okay, I'm just throwing this out there, right? This is speculation mode, full speculation mode. What I see is maybe Billy D. Lando starting off every episode talking about, now that reminds me of when we got into a little trouble on Ord Mandel, and the story goes kind of something like this, right? And it goes into
or it could be, oh, that reminds me of that little maneuver I pulled back at the Battle of Tanab.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if we're gonna stick with the quotes, okay, yeah. I had to do it. But that's exactly right. And then Donald Glover plays young Lando throughout the story. I can see that, that makes total sense. I don't know. I mean, or maybe it's different series. There has been speculation about us getting the story of Lando and Janna from the end of The Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Maybe that's a separate story.
Fun?
What's that?
Billy D. Williams, and hear me out after I say this.
Okay.
But Billy D. Williams not even playing Lando at all.
Oh. Okay.
What about Donald Glover being in a scene as Lando? And he bumps into this, old grizzled smuggler,
Yeah.
saying, kid, what do you know about smuggling?
Ah, yes. So the original Lando becomes the mentor to Lando.
Yes.
I can see something like that happening. Hey. Now, I just thought about this, but we had a story about Alden Ehrenreich, right?
Mm-hmm.
This could play into
his work
that.
It's going to be some cameo work in a Lando series.
Exactly. I could see that happening. Huh. That would make sense. I'd kind of like to see it happen that way too,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have this be Lando's, he's the primary driver of the story.
Well, we already got to see Lando be the supporting character in Han's story.
Exactly.
Many times.
Right.
Let's see Han show up as a supporting character in some Lando stories.
Absolutely.
That'd be an awesome trade-off, and it would really add to the dynamic of their friendship.
Right. Yeah, because really, when you think about it, what we have as of right now are 2 instances, talking about on screen. So we have Bespin and we have the Kessel Run. So
and really, when you think about Han and Lando, right? You don't think about Han and Lando as a, like Han and his sidekick. That's Han and Chewie.
Exactly.
These guys are like smugglers and scoundrels that are on equal footing, right?
Yes, and these guys they come into and out of each other's lives through different periods of time.
Yeah, they're not buddies that hang out every weekend.
Exactly, but they've interacted enough times that they know each other, kind of trust each other, and
I'd love to see a side by side series here, like you see in the Arrowverse, though.
So
you got a Lando series that's going on, you got a Han series that's going on, and they do crossovers. And you could do episode arcs that span both series week to week.
Wow.
So you watch part 1 on Lando, part 2 on Han, part 3 on Lando, part 4 on Han.
Wow. Now you're like, man, you're making my brain hurt. This could be awesome.
Dude, I love that. I do love those crossovers on the Arrowverse, where you watch part 1 on Supergirl, you watch part 2 on Flash, you watch part 3 on Arrow. I love that.
Interesting.
Because 1, you don't wait an entire week for the next episode.
Right.
2, all these stories are intertwined. So you got 2 series that are running side by side.
Yeah.
And they overlap along the way.
Huh.
I'd love to see that happen, where you have a Han and Lando series, each telling their own stories, and they intersect at points.
Yeah.
Because these 2 can't be together all the time.
No, absolutely not. You wouldn't want them to be.
And as far as the Lando series goes, I mean, I will say I do kind of put that up above a Han series, because I mean, look at when Lando showed up in Clone Wars, and every time he showed up, we're like, yes, it's Lando.
Exactly.
Or not Clone Wars, right?
Rebels. Yeah.
Rebels. Got ahead of myself. I'm a little excited right now.
Yeah. It's good. I like it. I like it a lot. I really hope this rumor has some legs.
Yes.
And this could do a lot to tide us into that 2023 film. So, if this is something that's actually going to happen sooner rather than later.
Oh, yes. This would be an awesome appetizer, or just, something to tide us over.
Yeah. I mean, if we could see this in, I don't know, late 2022 or early 2023, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Which I think that's pretty doable. So, hey, Disney, get on it. We need us some Lando.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, if you have anything to add to the conversation, you can always email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. It's the best way to get a hold of us. We're also on social media. We're at The Wars and More on Twitter, facebook.com/thewarsandmore. And you can find all that and all the ways to find the show over at thewarsandmore.com. Any final thoughts this week, Doug?
No, I think that about covers it.
All right. We'll talk next week.